Hi, everyone, and welcome to our BookTrib live chat with Dr. Wendy Treynor. Wendy is a social psychologist, next-generation spiritual teacher, and cancer survivor, and she's here today to talk about her book, The Gift of Cancer, Turn Your Tragedy into a Treasure Map to Happiness. Wendy, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Alyssa. It's such an honor and a pleasure to be here on BookTrib.
Of course. We thought just to get started, for some of the people who haven't heard about your work or seen your book yet, would you mind just telling us a little bit about The Gift of Cancer and sort of what inspired you to write it?
Right. Well, at age 29, I was diagnosed with cancer, and I knew that if I didn't, you know, change, I would die. I just had this intuition that I had to heal myself. Um, and so I started trying to think positive thoughts and try to forgive people and take self-responsibility. And I started feeling love for others. I decided to be love if I didn't see love. And as you see in my journey is really a journey to the self. And I came to realize the truth of who I am and all that is. And now I'm happy. So I use this book as an invitation to all people, whether you've cancer or not, to come live your happiest life, no matter what challenges may come your way.
Great, yes. We have a lot of questions from readers coming through, so I wanted to pass those by you. Becca asks, in your book, you talk about how you think your cancer was more caused by a state of mind. What do you mean by this, and can you touch upon that a little bit?
Sure. So research shows that what we think is linked to what we feel. And research also shows that stress, chronic stress, leads to uh, the immunity system to not function correctly. And therefore, when our immunity is weak, we're more likely to get disease. So we know from science that stress is related to disease um, and a weakened immune system. Now, if we define stress as perceived conflict, and we think of perceived conflict as a thought or an appraisal that underlies emotion, I know as a scientist that that appraisal corresponds with negative emotion. I also know as a scientist, or as a scientist who's read other people's research, Reef and Singer, they said that emotion is the link between the mental and the physical. When we think something, we feel the emotion, but the emotion, they don't say this, but I'm saying it, is an energy. And we also know now that there are neurochemicals um, released with the emotion. So, physical things are going on. Emotion is the bridge, according to Reef and Singer, between body and mind. And if we're thinking negative thoughts, we also know from Bruce Lipton's work, Dr. Bruce Lipton, that we're giving ourselves these chemical baths. Our cells live in these chemical baths. And if we are, creating a positive environment with our consciousness and thinking, we're having these life-giving chemicals are being released where the cells can flourish, or if we're thinking, fearful, conflict-ridden thoughts, then we have those negative emotions, and that's like a negative cell bath, and the cells will not want to continue growing. And these are ideas that are deductions based on the findings that he made. So I wouldn't say that's a definite conclusion. I'm just drawing the conclusion based on what I've heard his research has discovered. So there are different ways you can look at it, whether it's through Bruce Lipton's work, Phoebe Ellsworth's work with motion, or with the research on stress, chronic stress, and immunity depression.
Great. That sort of leads us into our next question from Audrey. She said, you have said that you walk the line between science and spirituality in your experience as a psychologist. Can you talk a little bit more about this and describe how you keep this balance?
Sure. So the question is, how do I walk this line between science and spirit, correct? Well, there are really two answers, which is really one answer. I'm trained as a scientist of human emotion, thought, and behavior. I'm a social psychologist. And hold on 1 minute. I just have to make sure my computer does not do updates right now. I'm postponing that. So I'm trained as a scientist of human emotion, thought, and behavior. And what's amazing is out of my research, my own research, and reading other social psychologists' research, it was a meticulous research that I did of other people's research and my own. I used the needle and thread of logic just as one would sew together patches of cloth to create a quilt. I used the needle and thread of logic to sew patches of research together into an overarching quilt of understanding. And remarkably, to my eye, it mirrors the tenets of spiritual truth. So I was a scientist. I just thought I want to know what's true, ultimately true from a scientific perspective. But what I discovered is if you just use logic and you tie together all the research to create an overarching map of the territory of reality, that map mirrors the tenets of spiritual truth. It mirrors what we're taught by all these different spiritual traditions. It really comes down to the fact that we have no identities, that our identities are socially conferred, and that the social group tries to control us by rejecting us for not conforming to their ways. But when we make the non-social our reference group instead of the social, then we experience unconditional acceptance, or what I might call isness. We come to realize that we're already whole as we are, and it was only our self-perception clouded by the conditional love of the world. And so I encourage everybody to make the non-social or nature or the self, because you're alone with yourself in nature, your reference group, and then you need not suffer. Because once you realize who you are, the spiritual search is a search for coming to know who are you really. And you come to realize yourself as the being that lies beyond the limits of the social world. You're not the role that you play, mother, daughter. You are so much more, and you are infinitely creative, and you come to realize the truth that you are like the sun behind a cloudy day. Only the clouds that get in the way are the clouds of negative emotion, and if you use body and breathwork practices like meditation and yoga, you can dispel the clouds of negative emotion and feel the love and joy that you are. So just like on a cloudy day, you look up, you don't see the sun. Well, it doesn't mean your joy doesn't exist. Your joy exists behind the clouds of negative emotion. So do your yoga, do your meditation, and meditate the blues away. And then you feel the love and joy you are, and you come to realize the love and joy that you are. And you realize that, there are no limits, that you're a limitless being with infinite potential, and so is everybody else.
Yes. And this sort of goes along with the last question, but I wanted to see if you might be willing to talk a little bit more about the identity shift effect and sort of this peer pressure that we all face in our lives, and sort of the steps that we should recognize when this is starting to happen in our own lives, when we're feeling like we're losing ourselves a little bit. So Kate's question is, in your book, you talk about the identity shift effect that causes people to lose themselves when pressured by their social groups. Can you tell us a bit more about this theory?
Sure. So this research came out of, me sewing together research in my field, but it also came out of my own experience. And what's amazing is that is a convergence of science and spirit, because I've lived the truth, I've researched the truth, and now I'm here to share the truth as I understand it as to why people become sheeple, why people betray their heart and conscience under social pressure without meaning to. And what's amazing is it's really just three simple steps that I propose. So the first step is we find ourselves in a social situation. People are rejecting us, or we're feeling the threat, the fear of social rejection. And so what we do to eliminate that external conflict is we will conform to the group as a way to avoid their rejecting us. But as soon as we do that, we shift into step 2, where we essentially exchange external conflict for internal conflict, or stated differently, social rejection for self-rejection, because now by conforming to the group whose standards were not our own, we've just betrayed our own standards of what is good, right, and true. And so now we feel guilty. it feels terrible. And to rid ourselves of this internal conflict or self-rejection, we then enter step 3, which is the final step, where we undergo what I call an identity shift, where we adopt the toxic group standards as our own self-standards as a way to eradicate the internal conflict. So now we have no internal conflict, we have no external conflict, and now the sky's the limit with the evil, or, what we can do. So it's an explanation that can explain what's going on, whether it's on the playground, in the locker room, in the boardroom, or even on the battlefield. This 3-step process called the identity shift effect can explain why people become sheeple. And now that we are armed with awareness of how it works, we can inoculate ourselves against being susceptible to it. And also, I encourage, of course, everybody to do a daily meditation practice. Take silent time alone each day to meditate, because meditation is a way to also raise your level of awareness. And if you're like me, which you are, over time you'll come to realize that you're a shining star and that you already have your own self-love and acceptance. You need not get it from the group. And then you need not be susceptible to unwanted social influence, because you already have your own self-acceptance. Yeah, what?
Yes. Well, Susan is going along with this. Susan is asking, relating to your message of self-love that you include in your book, what would you say to kids or adults who feel bullied in their own lives?
Oh, wow. If there's anyone who feels bullied in your own life, okay, for kids who are in a school and you feel like you can't leave that school, or people who are being bullied in the workplace and you feel like you can't leave your job, I advise you to do what I did in what my last real world job, which is that I would take breaks every 3 hours from work. So before I worked from 9 to 5, before I go to work, I do my meditation. I was doing yoga at the time. And now I do meditation and yoga, seated and gentle hatha yoga. But I was doing my meditation as yoga. I'd write in my journal. I'd walk in nature. And then I would go to work. And I would work for 3 hours. And then at lunch, I take a break. I leave the office. If you're in California or somewhere warm, you can walk outside. If you're on the East Coast, you can go to a cafe, or maybe the gym, but go somewhere where you can be alone with yourself. And in this time alone, not only is it like a meditation for you to kind of reground yourself in the truth of what is and who you are, which is your being is inherently acceptable and inherently beautiful, regardless of what anyone in the social world says, because the standards of the social world are what are variable. And they're just measuring you according to their subjective standards. So there's no reason for you to internalize it. Understand that there are infinite social worlds in our universe, and that you can really choose to make a social world that accepts you as you are, your reference group. And if you can't find one, you can become your own by making the non-social your reference group through meditation. And then again, at 4 o'clock, I recommend you take another break. In California, we have a rule of 2 15-minute breaks. I combine those 2 15-minute breaks into a 30-minute break, and then I would go outside the office again and do a little walk again. And in that time alone with yourself, you can start daydreaming about, your future life that you're going to create once you get out of this, toxic environment. But it's a way for you to nurture yourself and ground yourself in nature, ground yourself in the reality that is ultimate, that is way bigger than any social group, and come to realize the love and joy that you are, regardless of circumstance. Oh, and can I add, if you need additional inspiration, you can join our I Can Heal movement at icanheal.org, and you'll get week daily every day, not even week daily, every day you'll get amazing and inspiring inspirational quotes to help you feel the love and joy you are, regardless of circumstance. So come visit us at icanheal.org.
Great, that's great advice. Going along with that, I think a lot of people think of bullying as something that happens to children, but as you mentioned, it does happen a lot, in the workplace with adults, and that's not something that a lot of people expect or know how to handle. So I think that's great that you're talking about that message as well. Going back to your book, The Gift of Cancer, a bit, how Alex is wondering, was it hard to share your story with the world? It must have been a difficult time initially finding out that you had cancer.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I think I need to hear the question again because I thought it
Oh,
was
sure.
going in one direction, then I heard something else. Okay.
Sure. Was it hard to share your story with the world in the gift of cancer? It must have been difficult initially finding out that you had cancer
Oh,
and turning
yeah,
it into something that you could share with the world.
yeah, turning it into something I could share with the world, you mean?
Just your experiences, yeah, sharing your experiences with the world.
Yeah.
What made you decide that you wanted to tell your story?
Right, right. Okay, so I'm sensing like three different questions here. I'll try to answer them all. What made me want to share my story was I realized that my suffering could help other people not make the same mistakes that I made. So just the idea that I could make someone's life better by sharing my story, even if people see, what a fool I am, just to know that you wouldn't have to suffer like I did, gave me the inspiration and joy publish it. So that's one answer there.
Great. And Becca is wondering, can you elaborate on the statement that cancer is a gift? I think when people see the title, they're a little puzzled at first until they open it up and see what you mean by that. Can you just explain a little bit more about that?
Right. Very good question. So cancer is a gift in that, we need not take any obstacle or perceived obstacle in our life experience as a death sentence. Instead, we can shift our perception and view it as an opportunity for self-growth or an opportunity to learn more about ourselves or learn more about life or to grow in new ways that we never imagined were possible. So another way to look at it is cancer or any challenge you may face is a gift if you choose to see it as so, because it opens up the possibility for you to experience what I would call a transformational experience. It could be a spiritual experience. Some people have cancer and they, realize God or they realize love, and then, other people might have cancer and they'll realize, oh, I need to let go of these negative emotions, all these grudges and resentments I've been carrying my whole life. I'm just going to forgive all these people and just be happy. And basically, cancer is an opportunity for you to strip away everything in your life that is false, revealing only what is left, which is the true, and then to use that truth to guide you. And for me, the truth has been the truth in my heart from day one. It's my heart that guides me. It's my heart that beats to the rhythm of love and that feels joy when I'm on the right path. And if that's true for me, I'm sure it's true for you too.
Kate is wondering, did writing this book help you heal from all the emotional scars of your
Oh
illness?
my God.
Was the process of getting it on paper really healing for you?
Definitely. I would say hands down, yes, it helped. I remember as I was writing the book, I would be sobbing and crying and crying. It was like I was totally meditating as I was writing. I was totally processing all the emotions that I hadn't even let myself feel. And I was facing the experiences that I hadn't let myself really digest. And to do that was enormously healing. I can also add to that, not just writing the book was healing for me, and therefore it could be healing for you too. And research shows that, writing in a journal can be a healing way of releasing negative emotion, but also speaking about my experience was very healing. So I feel badly for the first groups of people I spoke to after cancer because I would like start crying during my presentations. But the amazing thing is, after the presentation, I felt so much lighter. And if the same is working for me, same is true for you. Process those emotions, whether it's meditation, exercise, writing, presentation, do it all, and you'll feel the love and joy you are again soon. Because really, the only thing that's getting in our way are the clouds of negative emotion. Have faith in yourself and the possibilities. The possibilities exist. You just need to have that faith in yourself, because if you don't have that faith in yourself, no one's going to have that faith in yourself. You have to take a stand for yourself. You have to believe in yourself even if you don't. You have to act like you believe in yourself even if you don't. And then as you start acting as like, oh, okay, I believe in myself, all of a sudden your world will shift and you will genuinely come to believe in yourself. And people will come to believe in you also. So take that leap of initial faith in yourself and the possibilities.
I know that you mentioned this a bit in your book, but Audrey is wondering, how did your battle with cancer impact the way you saw the relationships with people in your life?
That's a great question. I realized that I had been carrying a lot of anger towards some people in my life. When I was first diagnosed with cancer, I really thought that my cancer had been caused by people outside me who hadn't given me what I wanted. And then there came a point in my journey early on, very early on, where I had the awareness or the belief that if I was going to hold on to that anger, I would die because I felt that that anger would eat me up. And so I made a conscious decision to it wasn't a conscious decision to forgive these people. It was a conscious decision to choose self-responsibility instead of blame. So I said to myself, it's not these people's fault I had cancer. It's my responsibility that I have this cancer, and it's my responsibility to do everything I can in my life to get stress out of my life so I can heal. And the reason why I believe that works from a kind of a woo-woo standpoint, and this is not scientific, but this is the truth of my heart, is that when we get stress out of our life, and remember, stress is the perception of conflict. So if we can shift our perception, we can eradicate the stress, but it can be facilitated by navigating ourselves into an unconditionally loving environment, or if we can't find one, to become our own through meditation. But what we want to do is create an environment that's stress-free as we heal ourselves, because stress is the perception of conflict, which coincides with negative emotion, which is energy draining. And my experience is if we are thinking peaceful, loving thoughts, which is what I consciously did, and I noticed that when we're doing that, our energy goes up, and if it isn't going up, it plateaus there. But as long as I'm thinking loving, peaceful thoughts, I have way more energy. And if my body has way more energy thinking loving, peaceful thoughts, then we can use that energy, our bodies can use that energy to heal itself. So for the sake of your own healing, get all stress out of your life. And if you can't, read my book so you can remember how to.
Exactly. Okay. The next question we have, Emily Santo wants to know, how can I attend one of your workshops or retreats? They seem so inspirational.
Oh, well, Emily, I'm so excited you're asking, because you can attend one of my workshops or retreats. And we're going to be scheduling the newest workshops and retreats in just a few weeks. We are looking into doing retreats overseas. If you want to join us, we may do it in some foreign countries, and we'll join together in some exotic location and heal ourselves. Does that sound like fun? Okay, so come to icanheal.org retreats. Come back in 2 weeks, okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Great. That sounds like fun. This is a great question also from Emily Santo. She's asking, is happiness a destination or a state of mind?
Yay, very good question. I would say it's both. It's a state of mind. Happiness is the destination. At least that's my destination. I'm here solely to be happy, to love and to be loved. I hope that's why you're here too. So in a way, that's our destination. But as you journey down the path of, self-realization, you come to realize that you are happiness, that you are joy, that you are bliss. And so in a way, you already are that which you've been seeking. You already are the happiness you've always wanted. Stop looking for happiness outside you. It's never going to be outside you. It's not in your lover. It's not in your, new outfit. It's not in your new car or your big house. All those forms of happiness are fleeting. They give us pleasure, but the returns are diminishing in my experience over time. The only thing that gives me prolonged, sustained happiness is to look within myself for the joy and love that I am through my meditation practice, through my creations, being an artist, being a creator, doing your exercise each day. You know, do the things that make your heart sing and look within yourself for the joy you seek, and you will find it. So it's both. It's both. Great question.
Felicity is wondering, what are some tips on letting go of the negative energy around you and moving forward in order to be truly happy? I know you mentioned meditation is a big part of your life, but how, for maybe some of the people who are new to meditation, how are you able to get to a point where you're able to push those negative thoughts out of your head? Is there a tip that you have that you'd like to share?
Okay, so is this the question, how to push negative thoughts out of your head through meditation? Is that the question?
Yeah.
Okay, I have two answers. Well, the first answer is, for me, in my experience, when I started meditating, I got this like meditation pillow from Amazon.com. You can get one too. It's called a Zafu Dreamtime Meditation cushion. And once I got that, I swore I would meditate every day for the rest of my life and never stop, because I was sick of suffering. And what I found was that sitting on that pillow every day, it was like, well, it was two things. One was my mind was a swamp. You know, when I first started, I had so much chaos in my mind, even after I'd been doing yoga for 3 years. You know, I started meditation 3 years in after doing yoga. And I would be crying during my meditation, and my thoughts were all tangled, and it was kind of ugly in here, you know. But I had to treat myself with compassion like you would a newborn baby lamb. You just tell yourself, you know, hang in there, be gentle with yourself. These are just tangled thoughts and emotions. The radiant being I am is behind it, and I'm going to persist and keep meditating until I find it. And that's what I did. And it took me 7 months. Are we here? 7 months before I got to a place where I felt total peace in meditation. So if it took me 7 months after 3 years of yoga, you know, you must be gentle with yourself. It takes time. Right. The only reason you don't find it is if you give up. So you must tell yourself to try is to succeed, and pat yourself on the back if you sit on your cushion every day for 15 minutes or 15 or 20 minutes, and no matter what happens on your cushion, just thank yourself for sitting on it. And if you're like me, 7 months from now, you're going to feel peace for a moment. And you'll be like, yeah. But what's amazing is as you continue, that peace expands. And you notice that the time that you're peaceful gets longer, and you notice you can carry that peace with you into the world. Just as an example, I went to Trader Joe's. I don't know if you've Trader Joe's where you live. It's a great food store, very healthy foods to choose from. And I was just there one day randomly, and some man walked into me, and he walked by me. He said, "Oh, I could feel your aura." I'm like, that is amazing. And it's all that meditation. So keep meditating, and you'll find your bliss.
Right. That's great advice. I think we have time for one final question here. Emily is wondering, what is one thing we can do today to start feeling happier? Great question.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. I want to give you more than one, but then I'll give you one. And what's coming to mind is gratitude. Keep a gratitude journal. If you don't have a journal, just get a scrap of paper, and I want you to start writing. You know, I want you to do more than a journal. I want you to start writing thank you notes. I want you to, that's what you can do today, is write. Oh, my guidance is saying not too many. All right, I'm going to make it small and simple. What you can do to make yourself happy today is write one thank you note to someone you're grateful to. And that will make you happy, I promise.
That's great. Okay, well, that's all the time we have for today. Wendy, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your story. If you'd like to learn more about Dr. Wendy Treynor and her work, visit her website, icanheal.org, like her Facebook page, and follow her Twitter at icanheal. And you can purchase a copy of Wendy's book, The Gift of Cancer, on Amazon. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Alyssa. You too. And I hope to see you all at giftofcancer.com. Bye-bye.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.